record in here just so that I've got the backup. And there goes the audio. Oop, didn't want to do that.
Okay, so Podcast Detroit. Let's get this and save it.
Yep, there goes your audio. So yep, you should be good to go. Do you want me to grab the video link for you and shoot it to you?
Can you?
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead and get started. I'll shoot it to you in the chat.
So we're live now?
Yep.
All right, we're live, and we're still dealing with quarantine technical difficulties. So bear with us for a second. We want to try to get to your questions if you have them while the episode's shooting. If not, we'll catch you when we do. But this is the Human Condition. We're live. I'm Vince Orlando.
I'm Sean Davis.
We got two guests, two of my good friends, two people that I look up to in their endeavors, and always a source of inspiration. You guys want to introduce yourselves?
Sure. I'm Noelle Rousseau.
And I'm Dan Waller.
Apparently,
a little background on. I know you guys do everything. You have a zoo. You guys definitely run a zoo, and you're good at that. But besides zoology, what are your guys' areas of expertise?
Wellness. So personal training, mind, body, soul. And that's why we created our group, Fearless and Fortunate, especially right now. We're helping a lot of people. You know, people are struggling with depression, not being active, and, you know, we're helping them out with that, with everything pretty much.
So for everybody listening, we'll drop a link to Fearless and Fortunate. A lot of you people who follow this page anyway, I've already sent you invites. And if you thought that was somebody breaking into my account and sending out spam, it wasn't. So if you get it again, make sure you join, because this is something where they've really capitalized on the quarantine to where we're doing something positive every day. Dan will put on Zoom workouts. Noelle will do the same. Everybody's on there speaking about wellness, and there's some pretty cool guests that come on there. So it's if you're going to be locked down and you want to make the most of your time, it doesn't cost you a dime to go in there and get involved in some of these things that they got going on. It's a really good. As soon as they sent me the page, I latched on immediately. So you're gonna even hear my loud mouth in there sometimes. But
well, we love
check it out. Noelle.
Yes. So we absolutely love Vince when you come on there. He's become one of our main people. I'll just really quickly say I started my journey 5 years ago. Started with gut health, I went from overweight on the couch with so many ailments, it was crazy, to a pro fitness competitor in 9 months. So what I discovered in the last 5 years is that you are who you surround yourself with, and you get to choose your focus. And so when this time happened, we knew that fear was not something that people needed to be in. And we thought, what if we could bring something for people to be able to focus on for free, all healthy habits, mind, body, and soul. So we found people to donate everything from workouts to Zumba to empowerment work, meditations. And we feel like, you know, these people have become our family, and we just get to grow together, and people are coming out of depression, and people are getting healthier than they've ever been in their lives. So it's
and I've noticed it too. They have. It's quarantined, right? This is not quarantined in the sense of the 1918 Spanish flu pandemic, right? We can talk to people, right? There's no reason not to. For my daughter's birthday party, it was Zoom. Last minute Zoom. Let's get it. Now it actually worked out better because she doesn't get the physical presence. She don't care. But she got to see her cousin who's in this state and her uncle who's in this state. And so it was actually kind of cool because those are people we're not inviting. You're not even thinking to, because, but this is not quarantine in the way you would envision, any quarantine of the past. You know, let's think about the most extreme quarantines where you're sick if you're a Jew. You know what I mean? If you're a Jew, you're sick, so you go there into the ghetto and you do this thing. You know, that's an extreme version of quarantine. And I know that some people would like to draw that correlation. The government's trying to take our rights. It's ridiculous, but it's not. And even if they were, and I'm getting off tangent on what our whole thing is today, but even if there were some mass conspiracy to take away our rights, don't you think they'd take away this? The last thing they want is us talking and bitching about it. You know what I mean? So I still feel pretty free. You know, there's those bouts of loneliness on the weeks I don't have the kids, and, you know, the house feels empty, but I use it to push me into doing lots of hard drugs. And I try to do it. I'm picking up new addictions. It's really helping me get through this, but no, but you know, okay, so I don't have to now.
Recreational crack smoker.
They exist. They exist. Just don't come around me on Sunday.
Yeah. Only on the days that end with Y, right?
Thank God church is virtual now. But yeah, so this is in quarantine in the way that that we can really complain too much about it. You know, I do feel bad for the people who are lonely. There's people out there that are lonely and they don't have people, but that's where a group like Fearless and Fortunate comes into play, or the Human Condition comes into play, or amongst all of our friends, the people that are doing things like this and reaching out. It's there, and you push a button, and if you push that button, you go to the right place, you're going to get fed in the right way, and you might make a lifelong friend or a colleague, or, you know, whatever the case. But yeah, so that we'll let that segue into our topic today, which is perspective.
Sorry. I just wanted to say that I'm a very social person, but I have felt more connected during this time than I ever have in my life. And the cool thing is we are who we surround ourselves with. So I've been able to surround myself with everyone across the country, actually some people across the world, instead of just the people in my immediate location, you know? So I found this such a blessing.
And technology can be positive. It really can.
Even though we've been helping people, we've been getting so much out of this as well. Like, we've grown a lot from this, and a lot from everyone that's in the group. Like, there's so many great people that are in there that are teaching us so much, and we're teaching them so much, and we're all learning from each other. And it's amazing.
Well, and that's you know, Sean and I did the episode 2 weeks ago on social responsibility. And, you know, and that's a little bit different, but it's not. Service falls into that too, as part of social responsibility. Typically on a grand scale, you have these things that you should, it's common courtesy that we learn as a kid. Service is making that into an action. And it's a reciprocal universe. When Christ said, what you ask for, you shall receive. I paraphrase Christ because I'm not him and I didn't speak Aramaic. So, but it was that effect, right? That was the point. You ask, you shall receive. So, you know, what you do, you're going to get. You're going to get that back. So, and you can't give with the intent of getting something in return, because then it's contrived and you're speaking lack and limitation to the universe. I know people that do that. Some people that are very close to me in terms of having to see them daily, and they're on fire when it comes to when there's something that they can do that's going to suit their selfish desire, need, goals. And that's not always bad, but when it's your entire focus, it's going to eat your soul away. You're not going to have one eventually. It's going to be gone. And but I see people that'll, you know, if that person can offer something to them, they are the nicest, most genuine. I would never lie to anybody, but they would lie to that motherfucker. And the second that person had no value for them anymore, they would definitely lie about getting out of that engagement. Because the truth is, I just don't want to be with you because you don't add value to my life. You know, so that's extremely important too. Is giving without the we all hope that we receive, right? But we don't know how we're going to receive when we give. You know, we give to that old, we buy that old lady's groceries, or tip the worker at Kroger because they're out there on the front lines and they put a little note on your daughter's birthday cake that made you feel good, and you just want to say, look, I appreciate you. That gets paid back, you know, but it's not going to get, it may or may not come back in that moment, but you've just told the universe that I don't have any fear. This $20 doesn't matter to me, but this person does. And I feel like they deserve it. And I'm just going to leave it at that. And you know what I mean? And that's important. And it goes back to perspective. It does. So this is, I think, prime time to be talking about perspective, because, you know, one of my favorite quotes is there are no truths, only perspectives. And that's the truth. You know what I mean? Like, so we live inside the realm of phenomena. In the realm of phenomena, if you come from the conscious first model, right? So there's two ways you can look at the universe: material first, consciousness first. I believe consciousness first. I believe even at the subatomic level, every interaction is conscious. Maybe not in the degree that we understand consciousness, right? Because we have the ability to think into the future and contemplate our demise. You know, that's an evolved, I would believe, an evolved set of consciousness that we haven't learned. I think this human experience is a way for us perfect beings to, okay, now you've got these choices. Now what do you do to evolve consciousness further? Because I don't think God is perfect. I think God is evolving with us, whatever God is, and God's out there rooting for us. Like, man, just get it right, get past that shit, because there's something waiting for you, I promise. You know, so
you gotta live in your truth, though. There's a life of truth that you live. You know, there's a lot of people out there that create an ego and a falsified
well, it's created for them, and they perpetuate it.
And the ego, like, you know, a lot of these stories that they created, they believe them over time. So they built this persona and this image and this ego that is so far from their truth of their soul. You know, they're not operating on the planet from a place of truth of who they are. They're operating from a place of who they think other people want them to be. And in that, it's going to change your perception of that person. If you're not, you know, it's just like having someone talk to you and you walk away and be like, that motherfucker's full of shit. I haven't, you know, it just, there's people like that. There's people that are just straight up bullshitters. And, you know, you leave that and you're like, God, like, what's their truth? You know, and how to be honest with yourself. You know, and I, you know, I was guilty of a lot of shit, of doing the same shit when I was younger. You know, I wanted to be into this crowd and that crowd and did shit and acted this way and told these stories and this and that, only to find out that, you know, you're going to be so disconnected spiritually if you live in that level of consciousness that you're going to go crazy pretty much.
Absolutely. You will go crazy.
Well, we're all crazy, you know, and this goes back to the Buddhist concept of attachment, right? So we get programmed into believing that this is what life is. You do these things, you're a failure. You do these things, you're not a failure. They're very cut and dry for kids, right? So kids are born egocentric. We don't know any other way. We're relying on people. We're going to shit ourselves. We're going to piss ourselves. We need to be fed. We don't know how to do that shit. We don't even know how to talk to you. We're just hoping that if you hear these cries, that maybe somebody will come to our rescue. And so we can't judge ourselves for the fact that was as soon as we left the spiritual plane and came into this plane, we had to rely on people. And sometimes those people were assholes. You know what I mean? And that being said, you know, this says a lot about the human race too, because people want to talk about the demise of the human race. Number one, the population continues to grow. It doesn't diminish. So there's people out there keeping people alive, no matter what. You know, even the worst of people, when, you know, you have a baby that's crying and you're a crackhead, you've lost all hope, but somehow you get that baby fed even one time a day to the point where they can survive and tell their story. That's not how we'd like it to be, but at the end of the day, there's compassion built into us. But at the same time, you're teaching this kid, it's a jungle out there. You got to do this, you got to do that. That's what my dad taught me. And it helped while I was in the jungle. As soon as I got out of the jungle, I turned into a fucking asshole. I was a thug because I didn't know. I believed that's who I was, and I thought it was important. And I didn't know how to separate the fact that, well, this was now my identity. This is who I have to be. So I went out there and I lived accordingly, you know, and because I lived according to that perspective, or we can call it a belief system, BS, I suffered. I suffered because there was a deeper part of me that knew better. You know, my perspective was skewed from birth, and then the more you delve into philosophy and Buddhism, even Christ, you know, will speak about how you're in this world but not of it. You know, it's everything can be stripped off of you, and you can become the I am, right? You talk about a Viktor Frankl, and I always refer to him because a lot of people are familiar with him, but he's a hero of mine, right? Like this guy, I think about some of the worst atrocity that, because I always want to test my spiritual aptitude. Could I really handle that in that way? Because everybody's the first to say, well, fuck that. If I was in that situation, I would have done this. Shut up. You weren't in that situation. You don't know what you would have done. But you can contemplate that, and you can really ask yourself hard questions. And I think about, well, if I watched my family stripped away from me, I don't know from one day or the next if they're dead. And here I am being worked like a dog. I don't know if I'm going to die from one day to the next, because I'm starting to feel a little bit sick because they're not feeding us right. And if I appear frail, well, they might just kill my ass. You know, you get put under what we as humans would quarantine ain't shit, by the way, to all you masked social justice. That just has. We think about the worst things we could possibly get put into, and that's one of them, where you're not a human anymore. Your life has no value. You have no control. You had no say, and all you had was a religion that they didn't agree with, and now you're this. And to have to live through that every fucking day and come out of it and create logotherapy. And a book that is a cornerstone, I think, to anybody seeking growth, is A Man's Search for Meaning. Changed my life. You know, you think about that. He didn't suffer. He was in pain, but he said, I'm not going to let you imprison my spirit. Oh, it's on that.
Yeah, kick it over them. What do you guys think about that over there?
You guys went pretty deep, not gonna lie. But
we started off deep and get shallow towards the end.
Yeah, you always go deep. However, I loved your point that people think this quarantine's so horrible, but it's not. If you choose to focus, or you have the right perception and you focus on what's good, you can find so many amazing things about this.
Fearless and fortunate, right?
I agree that intention is everything. You know, if you are just giving out of the goodness of your heart, things will come back to you, but if you don't expect them to come back, you know, just because you want to help somebody out. And that's why we created this group, is because she actually was like, I feel like, so what happened was we came home from Mexico, right? And all this craziness was happening, the coronavirus just started, and she was like, I feel like God's telling me just to help people right now. I don't need to worry about money, even though most of our money's in stocks. We don't need to worry about that. And I looked at her and I was like, so how are we going to help people? And we didn't need to know how. We just started creating this group and started, you know, finding people and reaching out and inviting people, and it started to grow and grow and grow. And next thing you know, within, what was it, like 4 weeks, it was like 1,500 people. And
yeah, but the way that we did receive was I was always a giver. I was never someone who was able to receive. We received people that wanted to pour their time in, people that wanted to pay it forward. And we have some of the coolest admin team that came to us after a week or 2 weeks and were like, this changed our lives. Yeah. So now we want to pay it forward and do something. To me, I was blown away. Like just at the kindness in people. And a lot of people in this time are telling me all they see is bad people out there or people yelling at each other. All I've seen is kindness and love. So.
You know, it's funny. When the quarantine first happened, I was sitting at my gym and, you know, I'm looking at the manager and I'm like, hey, you guys gonna shut down? Like, what's the deal? You know, because it was on a Monday. And he's like, no, man, we're gonna stay open no matter what. And my boy calls me and is like, dude, everything's shutting down. Powerhouse is shutting down. LA's shutting down. Lifetime's shutting down. Meet me over at Dick's. And we went over there, bought a weight bench, bought all these dumbbells. He was able to, you know, him and his wife was able to kind of like get one of the CrossFit gyms to loan us like 400 pounds of bumper plates. Bought a squat rack from Rogue, and we just turned the garage into a gym. And in the same time, he starts videotaping me doing shit, and he's like, put this on Facebook. And I was like, oh man, I don't know about that. I was like, I don't know. He's like, man, everyone will love it. I was like, whatever. I don't know about all that, but I posted it, and like people love that shit. You know, it's, you know, there's so much you can do to change the energy level and the frequency level of what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Those who are taking this time to reflect on the inside and make changes and change my frequency and my perception and how I want to let my soul do what it do, you know, those people, you can tell who they are out when you see them. Those that are watching CNN and CNBC and Fox News 12 hours a day because they're quarantined watching the telly, you spot them immediately when you go to the grocery store.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's all about, and either one is fine. You know, I've learned a long time ago that I ain't the judge at all. You know, as long as like you evolve eventually, you know, because like I can't necessarily say I want to come back to Earth once this life is done. You know, I might want to chill with my ancestral family tree for a minute because it's rough down here. There's a lot of personalities. There's a lot of different things. There's a lot of different movements and perspectives and truths, you know. And speaking of truth, there's a great book by Emily Cady that's called Lessons in Truth. And it's a Unity. I had to read it in like, I went to Unity Ministerial School down in the D, and it's like the first book you read. And literally, it helps you see things. It helps you look through your eyes in a spiritual point of view 100% of the time. It like helps you train to see things that are all in alignment, even though in the humanness of us, you can say that's not in alignment or that's fucked up. You see like source in everything all the time, 24/7, never disconnected. You know, it's kind of like a practice you have to practice, but it blew my mind.
I'm sorry, I'm getting stuck in the tech shit, man. That's not my job. And I'm not good at it, but we need to, we're stepping our game up. We're going to get more interactive and be able to, because people are really chiming in. But on what Sean was saying, you know, we live, all of us, and even me still, as advanced as I believe I am in my growth, there's still this there's subconscious idea of who I am, what I'm deserving of because of who I am, because of who I'm told I was. It's still there, and I still have to fight those urges. You know, when we were talking about on one of my groups yesterday, we were talking about the suicide rate, and you know, people are suffering right now. They're suffering in many ways. They're suffering, you know, I'm suffering because I'm now a full-time teacher for 2 students that are in very different grades in the Montessori. And it's a fucking, I mean, look, it's a beautiful thing because but trying to manage this and multiple businesses, which happen to be coronavirus proof and economic impact proof, film and insurance restoration. So now my responsibilities have ramped through the roof. And now when they come in, I have to make disciplined approach at saying, no, it's them. All this other shit can wait. I waited this long to deal with, you know what I mean? But for the longest part of my life, because everything I did from my entire adult life was in the film industry. And that was my identity. That's what I knew myself to be. That was the thing that made me matter. You know, it took out the fact that, like when I was younger, you know, I was so scared of living in poverty again because I knew what that was, to be dirt poor. I didn't know I was dirt poor until somebody in the suburbs told me I was dirt poor, and I had to beat them up. You know what I mean? Because they made fun of me. And then I had to start fighting all the time because I was wearing floods. And now I knew I had gaps in my teeth. And so now I got to fight you over that. That became my life. I was always protecting myself from that shit. When life would have been so much easier if I said, yeah, so, you know, my parents don't have much money, but you know what I mean? We're not taught that. We fall into these identities and we start to believe them. And you develop a perception through that life is unfair, life is mean, life is unkind. You start falling into that Darwinian survival of the fittest. That doesn't even apply to humans, by the way. There's science behind that. Science that's been debunked. It does apply to most species. Does not apply to humans. The theory, because the theory of evolution is supposed to be very, very slow in the way that the humans, because we really do have a cousin in the chimpanzee, but this instant shift in our DNA that created the neocortex, which is the way we communicate as humans. It gave us language and all these other things. I don't know how the fuck that happened. So it was so instant that either somebody manipulated that shit or a fucking monkey took a rocket in the brain, and maybe there are aliens and some, you know,
like I saw an alien and a chimpanzee in like a meme, and it was holding a baby.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like that's how quick. So we're not, the Neanderthals are not our cousins. That's debunked. They're not our relatives. So so it happened relatively quickly. But I went off on the natural selection tangent. What was I talking about before that?
Well, originally you were talking about homeschooling.
But
then we got off to being mixed with a Palladian and a chimpanzee.
Yeah, no, but there was some relevance to it.
I can relate to that, Vince. I mean, I thought I knew where you were going, but maybe I didn't.
No, but there was something. I always circle back.
Yeah, you can bring it back. I'll tell you though, when we started the quarantine, I felt so full of purpose and passion, but yet I had to homeschool a 10-year-old, and I was like, oh my God. I was crying daily because I felt like I was failing. And then I realized, you know what? I had to change my perspective. I was teaching her leadership, she was started her own empowerment youth thing in Instagram. She was learning how to cook and clean. So maybe I'm not the best at math and reading, but right. And it's tough, right? When you're working and raising little humans, but some of us prayed for this. I prayed for more time. I got what I wanted.
I don't know. Actually.
But it's beneficial, you know. We could complain about it. And a lot of people do, but so now I get to learn through them. Now I'm not saying I'm not frustrated with them daily, but they also show me a lot of my flaws. Mm-hmm. No, why would you do this after the fact? No, we don't procrastinate here. We do this stuff up front so we don't have all this work on the back. Then I walk out of the room and I slap myself. And I say, you got to do the same shit. You do the same shit. What are you in there talking to them for? And I'll have honest conversations with them and say, hey guys, I fuck up too. I don't say I fuck up, but I mess up too. And I don't want you to think I'm just talking down to you. Like, these are things that I see in me that I don't want you to have. But it's been beneficial in that way. But we were on something on perception. Well, the perception of that, the perception of what it is. You can play victim to the fact that this whole thing's been what we know as our world has been flipped upside down. Now, if you're if you practice non-attachment, but there is no world to be attached to.
My world ain't flipped upside down.
Because you're evolved, and that's the point. You're evolved spiritually. My world ain't flipped upside down too, because it's not even supposed to be this. I don't know what it's going to be tomorrow. All this shit can get blown up.
I don't like to say this shit too loud, but I absolutely love quarantine. I think this is the best shit that's ever happened. I get to work from home. I get to work out all day. I get to hang out outside all day. And like, this is how it should be. Like, I don't ever want to go back to the office again. And like, thank God, like the CEO of our company is like, look, we're not really interested in you guys coming back to the office. Like, it's going to be a slow roll. And like, you know, you might only have 3 people in at the office. And if you don't need to be there, you won't be there. And we're not holding groups there anymore. And I'm like, yes.
My employees are like, when are we coming back for the meetings? I'm like, when I say, we'll do it when it's necessary. We ain't rushing back for no fucking reason. We don't have to do that. But you brought me back to my point.
I agree.
Go ahead.
I love this. It's taught me so much, and I love it.
But I do understand the fact that there's people out there who are laid off, got 6 kids, and that are struggling, that are going to the food bank, that are worried about the bills, that are calling the mortgage company, asking them to like put the next 2 months on the back end of their fucking mortgage. You know, I get it. I get it.
It's tough.
And, you know, I definitely say prayers for those people because, you know, they need as much as they can get.
And those are the people that you want. See, and that's the hard part about growth, right? Is some people aren't going to grow. It's just not their journey. They're not ready. And you can't be dismissive of that. There's some people that will commit suicide over this. They're
already dead.
You know, I mean, I know for me, before I got my head semi-right, my identity was wrapped up in being a provider. I was Superman. I had to be all things to everybody all the time, and that's not possible. But when I couldn't be, I went into fight or flight. Literally, it was life or death. And literally, I would take actions that could kill me. Literally, like, I mean, there's no exaggeration. It'll be in the book. I don't believe half the shit I write and I live through. I have to call and confirm with friends sometimes. But the people who do make it through it, and that's where the saying, and I know nobody wants to hear the saying because it's cliche and it's just bullshit to people who haven't experienced what the truth of it is that whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And it's true. And you only realize that when you're being tested, you know, and then you can look at that from a spiritual perspective too. Whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Sometimes the strongest people you'll meet are that 95-year-old on their deathbed who's fighting the last leg of cancer or dementia, and they have that moment, that epiphany, that peace comes over them that you get in transcendental meditation, to where I don't have any more questions anymore. I'm going home. I want that. Give me that all my life. Like, if I can get access to that my entire life, I don't need anything else. I don't need the job that the economy says I should have. I don't need the stock market to be this. Fuck the stock market. I don't need to rely on all these things. But, you know, I would like to rely on my fellow human beings. And I hope that this is being taught to us, is that, well, the gym's not open. That charges us exorbitant fucking fees anyway. Why don't we get on a fucking Zoom and do it all together with a common goal in mind? And then the value of it is we achieve these things as a group. Like, and you know, and there's ways to make money on that, but you don't have to bring people into high pressure sales and get them stuck into a fucking contract. You know what I mean? Like, hopefully people are starting to see, well, there was a barter and trade thing before.
Yeah.
Humans did pretty good with that for centuries. For tens of thousands of years, humans managed to function bartering and trading. So why now do we not think that's possible? Well, because it's illegal for you to sell certain types of foods, right? Yeah, there's a government problem out there that we got to deal with, but there's way more of us than there are. It's perception. We believe they're in power. We believe we have to pay these taxes. There's consequences set into place. 1 year, just 1 year. You want to see a real revolution? Not showing up in the Capitol wearing fucking masks over a mandate that's meant to save lives. That's not the way you do it. But 1 year, everybody mobilized, don't pay taxes. The fuck are they going to do? What are they going to do? They don't have any money. Go print more at the Federal Reserve? Have China come knocking down your door? You know what I mean? Like, what are you going to do? If we say no, we're done. Everybody, done. What the fuck are you going to do? We pay you, assholes. You know, and we're getting off on a tangent again too.
That's just too much. There's just too much fear. There's just too much fear.
Perception, though. It's perception.
You know, they'll be like, well, they're going to come after me. So then you have one person who's in fear.
On an individual level.
Fear is highly contagious. And next thing you know, you have half the country not paying their taxes and half the country paying them. And so now you're just right at where we're at now.
So now they still have enough money to incarcerate those other half, right? You know, because the other half lived in fear. But it's all perception. Everything's perception. And I want to get back. What you brought me back to was the point that I was trying to make about all we want as human beings is to be heard. We want to know that we can interact with somebody and not be judged. I've had this shitty problem. I've had this shitty drive, and I don't think anybody else has it. On the face of the fucking planet, I'm too embarrassed to even speak. And we lack it. And all the politics in this shit, I'm gonna stand up for my mask, I'm gonna stand up. There's people dying. Let's just look at the human aspect of this and say, what do I care for more, the economy or humans? Hard to say to somebody with 6 kids who's laid off and my job might not be there when I go back. And, you know, there's all these fears, but it's fear because you're a fucking human and we've lived through worse, way worse. And you have disconnect in all of you. And if you got somebody in a network, there's somebody that'll see you on a GoFundMe and maybe help you out. You know, like people are missing that type of compassion, but
that's what I was about to say. Sorry, I've been holding my tongue.
And that's what you guys did.
Compassion. We need compassion for people right now, but we also need to connect people to what they need. I mean, I had someone call me yesterday, and she said, I'm embarrassed to tell anyone how I feel. And I'm like, you're not alone. The big thing is, so people don't feel alone, we can connect them with things that'll help them.
And that's why you need to get out there with your stories.
I quote you all the time because you said something to me once. You're like, because we had rock bottoms, because we had bad addictions, we were the lucky ones because we got to grow and evolve because of them. But some people don't have that thing that made them change and face fear and grow. So we need to have compassion for those people and just figure out how to be the light, how to guide them to what they need, you know?
Because without that trauma, right? Exactly. If people grow by choice or trauma, and it's rarely choice. Nobody just says, I'm changing today because fuck it. You know what I mean? If your life is pretty good, you're probably not changing shit because it's pretty good. And my wife seems to like me. You know what I mean? My kids seem to like me. And I can binge watch Netflix all day and then I can play fantasy football and all these other things for the rest of my life. I really don't even have to see these people, but they appreciate what I do for them. That's a form of hell, man. You know what I mean? And then you wonder why the cheating happened, why the marriage split apart. And now you feel like that thing right there is the thing that's wrong. All that's happening. No, that's the shit that was wrong was way before this. There was a lead in. But on the connection thing, though, what I was talking about with my son's 11, and so his mom got a hold of his Google search the other day, and you know, I'm expecting porn and whatever, but yeah, do your thing, man. I'll have to talk to you about it, but you know, it's a normal thing. 11-year-old boys do. You know, he looks up. He's looking up cough syrup because my mistake. I let the little fucker watch South Park, and it's funny. And look, there's genius social commentary in there. He's not ready for it. But there's this one where the guy at the pharmacy is saying, "No, you really need this Desolum if you want to hallucinate." And it's the guy telling the kids what to get. So I go down, and this is prior to the mom giving me his web search. But so I go down to his room on Friday. I'm like, what's this on your dresser for? He's like, oh, I'm just being silly, moving things around. I'm like, come on, dude. Wait till you read my book. You know you can't lie to me. You know what I mean? Like, you're not lying to me, dude. You know who you're talking to. I talk to you about my problems. Do you think you're going to take this? And I'm like, you know, your boy Juice WRLD just died from it, right? A form of it, but I'm just trying to lay it in his head. People die from this shit. You want to talk to me about this type of stuff? I'll talk to you about it. You want to hallucinate sometime? Me and you will go out to the desert, and we'll do it where kids your age can sit and do it with a shaman, do some peyote, and you'll probably never want to do it again because your mind's not there yet. But at least we'll be in a controlled environment. But don't ever let me catch you with some shit like this in your room. So this is prior to getting the web search. One of the web searches was, can you hallucinate from blah, blah, you know what I mean? But one of them that was ultra concerning was will they come and get you if you call suicide prevention? And I was like, okay, that's not, so this kid, I never wanted to kill myself. I think I was too inferior to even want to kill myself because I might get my ass beat for that. But like, it just never crossed my mind when I was a child. When I was a teenager and my dad was out of the picture and life was different, then I'd think, oh, life sucks, I just want to go. But I didn't really want to go. I did fake a suicide when I was 15 to get out of going to juvie. I went to the psych ward instead. But that's a different story. I didn't want to. I staged it. But he was genuine. He was genuinely asking. They took me. I got it going.
Instead of Children's Village, I went to
Havenwick. Havenwick, met a girl. You know.
Yeah. Little psych ward romance.
Yeah, psych ward romance. She was in Flint. I was here. I didn't have a car. That was it. Once we got let out, we were back. So anyway, but no, so that concerned the fuck out of me. You know, and I just learned recently that my son, he doesn't want to communicate. Now, I'm the same way. I'm stubborn. I think I can solve all my problems. And that's one of the things I need to, it's a character defect of mine. I need to reach out to people more. I'm trying to be more open to one-on-one conversations and be responsive because I know I run from them. But on him, he hasn't experienced that yet, but there's got to be some genes there. And his mom called him a name, called him a moron, called him something else. Shouldn't do that. And she knows it. She was trying to make him feel the same way he was making his sister feel. They don't get it like that. They just know they've been called something and they believe that shit. So he said, I can't take this anymore. I'm leaving. And she's not thinking nothing of it, right? So he walks out. He's gone. Hours later, about an hour later, she calls me. She's like, I can't find Vinny. He said he was done with this and he left. And I was like, do you need me to come over there? I mean, what do we got to do? So anyway, she's like, no, I'm calling my dad. He lived right over by her. We're going to start going by parks and stuff like that. 2 hours passed, nothing. She calls. She's like, I don't know what to do. I'm like, well, call the cops is what you need to do. Because he's an 11-year-old boy out there wandering around, who knows where. I'm like, but check the washer first because he likes to hide in weird places when he's feeling sorry for himself. And everything was checked. So she's like, all right, I'm going to make one more drive to this other park. It's kind of far. And hopefully he's there. If not, I'm calling the cops. And then, if you want to come over, come over. So anyway, so they, as she's driving to that park, she gets a call from the cops. I believe it's Clinton Township. This kid's at 15 and a half in Gratiot. She lives at the service drive in Groesbeck. So he's been walking and with intent to go somewhere, not home. And so he was genuinely hurt by the fact that that was her go-to method now, was calling him names when he did something. And it should be, and he's growing up in a different, for us, that was normal shit. You dumb fucker, slap in the head. That was just what it was. We see the damage it caused, you know what I mean? But for us, it was normal. We were running away over some shit like that. But we've raised him completely differently. He hasn't experienced abuse like that. So that's abusive to him. And he's smart enough to say, well, that was emotional abuse. And but the problem was he didn't attempt to communicate. He didn't attempt to communicate. So I see this thing come up on the suicide watch or the suicide, him wanting to call the suicide hotline. And I take him, I'm like, me and you talking right now, man. What was that about? Why did you want to call the suicide hotline? And he's like, I really feel embarrassed saying. I'm like, well, that's okay. You're allowed to feel embarrassed saying it. If you can't feel embarrassed saying things around your parents, then you can't say it around anybody. That's what we're here for. So you're gonna tell me, and if we have to sit down here all day, and then that's what we'll do. Well, and then but you're gonna tell me because that's important, and I need to know that. And it went back to the same thing with his mom. She was calling him names, and he didn't have the wherewithal to approach her on it and say, Mom, I don't like that. I don't think you should be calling me names. Or if he did it in a confrontational way, which supported her, and and they were doing things the wrong way. After that, they got to have a good conversation. I got the kids back last week, night and day, the way they were interacting with each other on that simple conversation. And then this happens, and I said, Vinny, do you understand that? I don't know what's in you that makes you feel like you can't talk to somebody about these things outside of your peer group who's not really there to support you. They're yes men, you know what I mean? But you got to be able to talk to people. And it goes back to this whole thing with our perception. He perceives that he can't talk to anybody because he's going to be judged and scrutinized, and that's the worst pain you can feel as a child, right? And as an adult. So he doesn't. And he assumes the outcome because he doesn't want to talk. He doesn't want to figure out anything different. It's just, she's going to continue calling me this. She's never going to listen to me. I'm out. You know what I mean? Or I'm out. I'm going to kill myself because I just can't take it. And this is what human beings go through at all age levels. And it's fucking horrible, and it's horrible. And you talk about what can we do to just be a light, because that's really all you got to be. That's your currency, right? Is being the light. So me and Sean, we don't get paid for this. We're not seeking payment. The day may come where the viewership is such, and we get that little email from Google saying, hey, do we want ads in our shit? We'll make a decision then. But for us, this feels good, because no matter who listens and how many we get and whatever, and people do, which feels good, because you get to talk to them, and you get to know that I mean, hearing messages like that thing you talked about that one day that got me through. I didn't know if I was going to make it. Shit like that. That's currency, right? That makes your. So what you guys are doing is exactly what you can do, because it doesn't cost you anything. It's your time. But where is time more valuably spent than on other people? Because if we are all one, and if we're spiritual or God people or whatever, well, we are. So what you do unto others, you're having done unto yourself. How could you possibly grow without being there for somebody else in some way? But you don't know what that way is. Like, we try to contrive the ways that we can be there. I could have never contrived a way to be there for Vinny in that moment, other than to see it happen and to say, well, I understand. I don't know how to fix that, but you can talk to me about it. And that's what Fearless and Fortunate does for people. Talk about it. That's what this does. We don't care what you talk about. You can hate us and disagree with everything we say. I love when that happens, because I do, because typically it'll take you back to a place of darkness. When, like, I've been there, Sean's been there, we've talked about it all the time, man. We understand. And if somebody knows you understand, well, now they might be, maybe they won't judge me if I say this shit. I've been taking up too much time, but I don't know.
No, Vince, I think you're right. And ultimately, if you can help one person, whether it's with your podcast or every time I go live on Facebook, I'm like, I call it squirreling. I might go off on a tangent. But if I can help one person, it was worth it. And I've never done it, not had at least one person message me. That's what they needed that day,
And that's important.
And everybody is someone's kid, like, what if Vinny needed someone and you weren't the one to be there? But let's all be there for someone.
Everyone's like, we're all one. Like, perspective, right? Perspective. There are no truths, there's only perspective. If you take that on a deep metaphysical, let's skip the spirituality of it. But this concept, the world is as you see it, has been around since Sanskrit. You know what I mean? This is not a new concept. The information you take in and then reproject it into the universe, that's what your world is going to be. So how I interpret this quarantine, that's how my life's going to be after the quarantine.
Yeah.
How I interpret it is exactly what it's going to be. But I'm going to say, but the universe, I didn't make any choice in that. No, you made a choice in how you responded to it.
Yes.
And that made the difference. But Viktor Frankl, logotherapy doesn't happen if he comes in and says, woo, I got out of that one. You know what I mean? I thought I was gonna fucking die. Fuck those people. You know what I mean? And then he spends the rest of his life motherfucking the Nazis. What value does that have?
Yeah,
You know,
we can't control our circumstances, so it's all how we respond to things. And if we respond with love, I mean, there's no greater thing you can do.
And the thing with responding with love is for people like us, right, that have suffered, and you know, me, severe PTSD. I'm sure we all have it to some degree. So no matter what the ailment is, there's a very limited space in between stimulus and response, right? And in that space is reaction. So mine, knowing that 4% of my hippocampus, it's probably grown by now, but was shrunk and the neurons were ineffective. I didn't have the cognitive ability to get out of fight or flight. So when that trigger hit, my space was this big. I believe it's this big now, and there's some time there for me to be able to make a responsive choice. We have to be mindful of the fact that a lot of people won't suffer to the point to where we have to figure that out about ourselves. You know what I mean? So it's you know, we can be sanctimonious in our spirituality and say, well, you shouldn't act that way. Well, no, you just did. So there's a reason for it. I agree with it. You know what I mean? I don't agree with it whatsoever. And I think there's a way out of that. And if you want to listen to me, well, you know, maybe I got something for you, maybe I don't. But to judge somebody, it's the flip side of the same coin, you know, and it doesn't allow for growth. And all it does is reinforce perception, because in the realm of phenomena, which is what this is, we know quantum physics has proven this. We're all energy. That's all we are, meaning frequency. That's it. You know, and you know, the electrons floating through space looking for a way to slow down through the Higgs boson, and then eventually matter gets formed, and then all these conscious things happen, and then now we have life, right? Did a God create that consciously? That's pretty genius. I mean, I don't say that it couldn't happen. Do I know that it did? I fucking don't know, but I don't care because it's cool. You know what I mean? Like, I'd rather believe that than nothing. You know, the other way is boring as shit. But if we know that about us, we know that we're all one. Literally, we are all one. Even if you're a scientist and your God is the Big Bang, there's something called a singularity. Then beyond the singularity from this expansion is quantum entanglement. These are proven scientific things. It means we're all interconnected. There's nothing we can do about that for all of our existence, no matter what we are. Subatomic particle, worm, dog, cat, no matter what the fuck we are, we're all quantumly entangled, which means we're all one. So, you know, so how do we change perception? By being something different than what, you know, we were told we should be. That's why I like to speak in the way that I do with, because I have an audience that still knows me as the international drug dealer who supported his I was fucking nuts, man. When you read the book, like the shit that I lived through, it just shouldn't have happened. You know, dealing with cartels and the madness that I put myself through so nobody could ever call me poor again was fucking insane. But to be able to live through that now and still have a voice with the people that I grew up with, because they're like, well, no, I know him this way. The fuck is he talking about now? Same with Sean, the group of people. He did the same with you guys. You stereotypically look like somebody who might not even talk about this shit. You know what I mean? But now you got a platform to say, well, no, this is the stuff that matters. We just look this way because we believe in health and fitness, and it's all intertwined. So perspective, you know, perspective is, nothing here is true except for change. That's the only truth. Everything will constantly change in the realm of, we don't know what it's supposed to be.
We got 1 minute left. Why don't you guys put the plug in for what you're doing, and you know, tell everyone where to find you.
Okay. I mean, I would just say you're right. Everything's always changing, but this is the first time in our life that instead of people struggling separately, they're all together. And so, yeah, if anyone wants to, you said you could put it in the comments, or we could.
Yeah, you can
Our group is not only
put it on the
open
page
for
too.
anyone, but we encourage everyone to pay it forward. Even if you don't think it's something for you, invite your friends, because you don't know how many people could be struggling on their own. And mental and physical, spiritual, soul, all of this is one. So some people, you know, the mind and the body work together. We want to support people and all that, but we also want to help people find where their niche is. So the people that jump on the Zooms or jump on the lives, what might be something you love might be different than mine, but it's just like dating. You want to find what kind of workouts you like, what kind of mindset empowerment coaches you like, kind of meditations you like, right? So
Tapping techniques. I mean, you guys
Right.
have nutritionists on there.
we have some of the coolest people, and we have some leaders that are there every week. And then we have other leaders that like come in as special guests, and we love it. And we just love supporting people, and we want people to feel like they're part of a family, like they're not alone. So we like
And
to
it's been
encourage
effective.
people. What?
It's been effective that way. Like the comments that I see, I'm not on there as much as I'd like to be, but I am in that one comment section, and what you've done for people that seem to have been felt isolated prior to this group existing. The one girl made a comment. She's like, "Oh, and how can we access these kinds of people? You know, we can't afford to be around." You know what I mean? Like the perception. So.
Right. Yeah, people who before had the limitation of time and money, we've taken that off the chart, you know? And I encourage everyone to reach out to me, because I learned I can't be everything to everyone, but I can connect everyone to what they need. So.
And then we find our strengths, right? Do you have anything in closing? I know Dave's going to give us the boot here soon. Dave's the boss.
I'd like to invite anybody that feels like they have something they can offer our group, that they can come on as a special guest if they'd like to. They're more than welcome. If you want to help people like we are, you're more than welcome to join us.
All about empowerment. Anything, even if it's sharing a story.
Yep. We love testimonies. Anything you can do to help somebody, give them hope, inspiration, mind, body, soul. Yep.
Sean?
Thank you.
All good.
We're all good. This was a good. We'll talk more. We'll have more of these. And we'll figure out a way to integrate all this stuff so that it goes to yours. And I don't know how to do it. We'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out. Workout on our.
Yeah.
You're gonna love it. I already know.
Thank you guys. Thank you so much for having us. We felt honored.
No, thank you. Thank you. And thank you for what you're doing. We'll put your link on our page.
All right. Keep inspiring, guys. Thank you.
All right. And you too. Thanks, Dave.
Take care, guys.
No problem, guys.